Good evening and a good Yom Tiv. B'shus harabonim, the mashpiim, achshuvim, and of course the Talmidei Atmimim. I would like to share with you a few thoughts in regards to the Yom HaGadol v'Hakodesh, Yud Shevat, which Yud Shevat we know is a time for Cheshbon HaNefesh. But sometimes we have to wonder, what questions are we supposed to ask ourselves when we make the Cheshbon HaNefesh? So I would like to share with you some thoughts that I had regarding Yud Shevat. I want to start off with a fascinating story. There was once a person that came to Niagara Falls. He came to the falls and the water was rushing, and he put a string out across the falls. And he asked the people, how many of you believe that I can walk across the string without falling down? So they all screamed, yes, we believe, yes, we believe. And he walked across. He comes back and he says, how many of you believe that I can walk across the string with my eyes closed? They all screamed, yes, we believe, yes, we believe. And he walked across with his eyes closed. He came back to them and he said, how many of you believe that I can walk across the string with my eyes closed and with the wheelbarrow across the string, across Niagara Falls? So again they screamed out, yes, we believe, yes, we believe. And he went across. Finally, he comes back the fourth and final time. And he asked them, how many of you believe that I can walk across Niagara Falls with my eyes closed, with the wheelbarrow and so on inside of it? And they all screamed out, yes, we believe, yes, we believe. So he turned around and he says, how many of you who believe are willing to go into that wheelbarrow? It's geworden still. Tonight, Yud Shevat, you have many people coming to 770 and they scream, yes, we believe, yes, we believe. I don't care if you believe. I don't care if you say that you believe and you scream that you believe. My question tonight is, how many of you are ready to walk into the wheelbarrow because of your belief? How many of us are ready to dedicate ourselves to the shlichus of the Rebbe because we believe? And that is the question that we have to ask ourselves on Yud Shevat. The Rebbe in Dor HaShvi is creating a revolution. He's changing the way we think, he's changing the way we act, and he's changing Olam Hazeh to a world of Geula. And at this point, the Rebbe is giving us a chance to join. The Rebbe is giving us a chance to put ourselves in the wheelbarrow. And the question we have to ask ourselves, are we ready to become part of the mission? If we become part of the mission, so then we can elevate ourselves to become part not of the Rebbe's army. We can become part of the Rebbe's angels. And I want to share with you a story that actually happened. The story happened with a cousin of mine. His name is Rabbi Avtzon, who's currently on shlichus in South Africa. But for 1 year of his life, he was learning smicha in the smicha program in Milano, Italy. It came the day of Purim, and the shliach in Milano gave them shalachmonis. And he told them that there's a Gan Yisrael in Italy, in Milano, and he wants the Bochrim to give out the shalachmonis to all the kids, all the parents of all the kids. They mapped out the city, and they realized that most of the kids lived in one area, but there's one family that lives very far away. So according to their cheshbon, according to the way they thought their day would go, they thought they would visit all the kids and forget about that one family all the way at the end of town. As he tells the story, it started raining and it got cloudy and they said l'chaim. Before they knew it, they were lost in the city. And they didn't know where they were going. When finally they asked somebody, where are we? They said, we're on this and this street. And Punkte was the street where this family lived. In other words, all the other families they didn't end up going to. But this street was Punkt where this family lived. Good. They come to the family and they say l'chaim, and there's a mother there with 2 kids, and they come into the house and they give them shlach manes and they sing some songs. And before they leave, my cousin tells them that, by the way, I want to tell you something which is bashkocha pratis. I really was not planning on coming to visit you, but because we got lost, we ended up coming to your house. So the woman who heard this story, all of a sudden she started crying. My cousin was like, wow, I didn't know, I don't know how that effect on people. Why are you crying? So she said the following thing. She said like this: my husband, he ran away from us. We're very poor. My husband, he ran away. Everything I have disappeared. No money, no clothes, come out, nothing. He says, this very morning, the morning of Purim, I turned to the Eibishter, and I told him, show me that you care for me, send me a sign, send me an angel. And he says, and here you 2 are coming to my doorstep tonight. If we go in the ways of the Rebbe, we can do miracles. We can change lives in a way that we can never imagine. But what happens to the Bocher that thinks that he does not want to join the mission, and he'll let the mission go on without his help? So I want to share with you another story. And this story happened in the city of Chernihiv. The Rav of Chernihiv was the famous Chassid, Reb David Tzvi Chaim, otherwise known as the Radatz, who the Friedrich Rebbe said on him that he was a tzaddik of the Tanya. In the city of Chernihiv, there was a big soicher, a big wealthy Jewish person, that one day he was arrested for no good reason, and he was sentenced to 10 years in Siberia. This is what happened to this person. The day before he left, the day before he was sent away, the day before his 10-year sentence was supposed to start, he asked the police, if you can please bring me or allow Reb David Tzvi Chaim to come visit me. Good? The Radatz comes, and he's expecting this person to cry to him and tell him, please get me out of Siberia, daven for me, do something for me. Instead, this rich person turns to the Radatz and he tells him, I am not calling you to complain. I'm not calling you to daven for me. I want to tell you a story. What story does this person who's going to Siberia, what does he tell him? He says like this: a few months ago, I was on a train to Moscow, and someone told me that on the very train that I'm in, the Friedrich Rebbe is on that train. The Lubavitch Rebbe is on the train. So I told myself, even though I'm not a Lubavitch Chassid, but if the Friedrich Rebbe is on the train, I'll go be Mekabel Ponim. So I go to the Friedrich Rebbe, and they give him Shalom Aleichem. And the Frierdiker Rebbe turns to him and asks him, what do you do? He says, I do business, I do this, I do that. He's a soicher. The Frierdiker Rebbe tells him, here's a chayin, I have a good idea for you. What's your good idea? He says, right now, they are building a mining factory in Siberia. A factory. And I know that you have connections to the minister. Why don't you ask the minister that you should have the contract to that factory? So I looked at the Frierdiker Rebbe, and I told him I have my wife and kids, they live in Chernihiv. There's no reason for me to go to Siberia. He said, I think it's a good idea that you should do it. So I left him and I didn't complain, but I told myself, forget about it. I'll do my business, and the Frierdiker Rebbe's eitzah is a good eitzah. So he turned to Reb David Tzvi and he said, how foolish I was. The Frierdiker Rebbe knew I was going to end up in Siberia for 10 years. He wanted me to go as a rich man. Instead, I'm going in chains in jail. The Frierdiker Rebbe wasn't giving me a business opportunity. He's telling me you should know that maybe you should go to do business in Siberia. You're going to end up in Siberia. That's your place. If you listen to the Rebbe, you'll go at rich, you'll go with kavod, you'll go like Yaakov Avinu went down to Mitzrayim, b'kavod gadol. If you don't listen to the Rebbe, you'll go to Siberia anyways. The only difference is you'll be in prison, you'll be in chains, you'll be in jail. The Rebbe, 61 years ago tonight, told us where we're all going to end up. He told us that we're going to end up, the Dor HaShvi is going to end up in Geula. That is our destination. And he gave us an opportunity, and he's giving us an opportunity to join and be part of that mission. For those of us sitting here that want to be part of it, good. So then we're going to end up there b'kavod gadol. We're going to end up there as Ashirim, as part of the Rebbe's Nachas army. For those of us that want to ignore the message, you're also going to end up there. Lo yidach mimenu nidach. Everyone's going to end up in the Geula. You just may end up with boishes panim. When the Rebbe is going to turn to you, you'll be, where were you? You'll be in chains. And that decision, if we want to go b'kavod gadol, as the Rebbe's nachas, or do we want to go with boishes panim, that's a decision that's up to us. Now, sitting in front of me tonight, I see there are many Bochrim. Many Bochrim who's here, who are listening, who are not listening, who should be listening, who should be here, whose neshamas are listening, who's want to listen, the etzem neshama want to listen, all different types of Bochrim. I'm sure all those that are not here are watching it in 770 live, because where else would you be but 770? So even if we don't see the hundreds of Bochrim, they're probably all here, one way or another. But what's a tzad hashava from all the Bochrim which are here? The tzad hashava is that we're dealing, and we're part of a very interesting crew. We're part of a crew, and I'm included in your crew. I'm included in your dilemma, in your predicament. We're dealing with a group of Bochrim that are growing up, that are here, that are growing up post Gimel Tammuz. I also entered Mesivta post Gimel Tammuz. Now everyone, even your parents, entered Mesivta after Gimel Tammuz. The Shaila is which year? I'm talking about Gimel Tammuz, Tov Nun Dalet. And a Bocher sitting here after Gimel Tammuz, he may think to himself, why should I want to join? It may look like the revolution is over. Why should I want to be part of this great thing? So I want to share with you a story that you may have not heard. There are different types of stories that you may have not heard. Some because they never happened and they're part of the speaker's imagination. So that's why you never heard it. And some because the people that it happened to never were mefarsim the story. This story that I'm about to tell you is a story that the only reason why I have the privilege of knowing this story is in the schus of a bocher like you. There's a bocher here sitting in this room right now, or maybe standing in this room right now. I know he's here. Who 5 years ago he made achlata. His achlata was not for himself, for me. His achlata was that I will never eat Sudas Yom Tov on Simchas Torah at home. That was his achlata. You know, what he does for himself, I don't ask. He doesn't want to make achlata. His achlata was that as long as he's a bocher, I will not have Sudas Yom Tov on Simchas Torah at home. What does that mean? Every single year for the past 5 years, this bocher looks around 770, let's say an hour after our kofis, and if I'm not there, he goes around Crown Heights to find me. My parents' house, my in-laws, here he goes. And when he does find me, he literally drags me out of the house. Azoi is maisim b'chol shana v'shana. To the extent that's like part of the Seder Advorim. So this is this achlata that this bocher made. So this year, mamish right on target to the extent that I told my mother-in-law to prepare food for him when he comes. You know, why should he come and there's no food? Sure enough, right on schedule, he rolls in. And Azai, the Seder goes on. He schleps me by the hand or by the foot or by the talis or the gartel, whatever he could schlep. And we go, he schleps me up Kingston Avenue. On the way, he tells me he's thirsty. What makes you thirsty? It's been 15 minutes since he said l'chaim. And because it's 15 minutes since he said l'chaim, he has to say l'chaim. So where is he going to say l'chaim? He said there's a house on Crown Street. You can go to that house in Simchas Torah and say l'chaim. Fine. I follow him like a Eved Nemon. He schleps, I'm going. We land in the house on Crown Street, Rabbi Zalman Chaim, Shlita. At this house. Come to the house, and sure enough, there's a mashkel b'shefa godel. Farbaisin b'shefa godel. And after a l'chaim or two, so I get up to leave. This is supposed to be a rest stop. But no. He starts farbringing, and I heard a maisa that day, this is a few months ago, that I never heard. Now, I'm not from those people that say, if I didn't hear it, you didn't hear it. But I think you never heard this story anyways. This maisa is a maisa it's worth hearing. There was a Yid in Crown Heights in the early 80s, in the early mems, that he went to the doctor. I have his name. He went to the doctor, and the doctor said, I have good news and bad news. The good news is that you're alive right now. The bad news is that Al Pi Teva, in 1 month, you will not be alive. Why? He says, we did a full check, and your kidney failed. Your kidney, which is supposed to clean your blood and everything, your kidney failed. And your only chance to live is if you get a kidney transplant, a new kidney. But in those days, it would take months or years to find a donor and to find a matching donor to get this kidney transplant. And therefore, he says, Al Pi Teva, you're not going to live. He comes home. And the first thing he does, he tells his kids the good news. But after a few minutes, he shares with them the bad news. And they're sitting and they don't know what to do. This person goes to his room at night, and he's thinking, he starts making cheshbon hanefesh. In middle, he reminds himself of something, and mamish, like a flash from the past. Something, a shock that he didn't know before. I mean, he knew it. It came to him from nowhere. His mind went back 40 years. Let's say this is Tavshin Mem Daled. 40 years to Tavshin Daled. What happened 40 years before? 40 years before, this person who passed away already, his older brother was supposed to have a bar mitzvah in Tavshin Daled. Listen to the story. His father arranged that his brother's aliyah will be by the Frierdiker Rebbe's minyan. And not only will he get an aliyah, but he would get maftir in the Frierdiker Rebbe's minyan. Good? He's all excited. He prepares for months for maftir. He comes the Shabbos of his bar mitzvah. They walk to Crown Heights. They lived in Brownsville, I think. They walk to Crown Heights for his maftir. And the Gabayim tell him, we have bad news for you. You're not getting maftir. Why you're not getting maftir? He says because in the last few months, the Frierdiker Rebbe's son-in-law lost his father. Reb Leivik was passed away in the Chaf of Tavshin Gimel. And therefore, he gets maftir by the Rebbe's minyan. But the kid starts crying. Imagine you're a bar mitzvah boy. You prepared your haftorah. You prepared your kriya. You prepared your haftorah. And now it's in Gansen, no maftir. So the Gabbai tells him like this. He said, I don't care to give you maftir. Work it out with the Rebbe's Eidim, with our Rebbe, and then you can get maftir. So this 13-year-old boy comes over to the Rebbe and tells him, Rabbi, the Rebbe's son-in-law, I need to get maftir. So the Rebbe asks him, why do you need to get maftir? He says, my bar mitzvah is this Shabbos. I need to get maftir. So the Rebbe tells this kid, I also need maftir. He says, why do you need maftir? He says, my father passed away. I need to get maftir. So two people that need maftir. So the Rebbe has rachmanis. The Rebbe turns to this boy and says, let's make a deal. I'm going to make with the Bochrim a second minyan, and you'll get maftir in the second minyan. You know, in 770s, like 7 minyanim after Kriya for the Chsanim. So you'll get we'll make a separate minyan for you. You'll get maftir, gesundheit. Sounds reasonable, but not to a boy who prepared 5 months to get maftir. He turns to the Rebbe and he says, Lubavitch Rebbe's son-in-law, let's do this. You go to the side minyan and get maftir. In other words, if it's such a good idea, you go to the side minyan and I'll get maftir with the main minyan. So what does the Rebbe Oyev Shel Yisrael do? The Rebbe turns to this 13-year-old boy and tells him, I'll make a deal. You give me the maftir, I'll owe you a favor for life. You give me the maftir, I'll owe you a favor for life. That's worth taking. The kid says, Beseder. He goes to the side minyan. The Rebbe got maftir. The sipur is forgotten. This Yid, whose kidney failed him, quickly in the middle of the night, he calls his brother. He says, my dear brother, did you ever get that favor from the Rebbe? He said, what favor? Do you remember by your bar mitzvah the Rebbe promised you for your mouth? Oh, yeah, the bar mitzvah. He says, but I don't think that the Rebbe remembers our deal. He says, I promise, because this person became not frum in his later years. One became a Lubavitch Chassid and one became not frum. He says, I promise you, if the Rebbe made a deal, he remembers to the end. Nah, I don't believe you. He says, do me a favor. My kidney is not here. It's not, I'm dying in a month. Do me a favor. Call the Maskiris. Tell them you need the Rebbe to give you a kidney for your brother. No problem. The next day he calls the Maskiris. He tells them, my name is Mr. So-and-so. When I was bar mitzvah, I made a deal with the Rebbe, and the Rebbe owes me a favor. So the maskir who picked up the phone started laughing. Imagine this guy tells you the Rebbe made a deal with you, bar mitzvah. He says, listen, I'm 60 years old now. I'm not calling you to waste your time. I'm telling you the story. Do me one favor. Go to the Rebbe and ask him if he remembers. So the masker said, "Beseder." He goes to the Rebbe 5 minutes later. The Rebbe says, "Of course he remembers. What do you want?" So he says, "I want a kidney for my brother. I need it in this month." The Rebbe said, "Beseder." 2 weeks later, he was already after the transplant. B'nisei nisim. To each and every one of you here, this is what I can tell you tonight. The Rebbe is open to make a deal. The Rebbe is waiting for us to give up something for him. But he's not asking it just one way. I'm telling you that the Rebbe obviously loves everybody, but especially the Bochrim. We know what the Rebbe writes in the famous letter of Yud Shevat, which is a politic thing. The Rebbe writes, you should go to schools. Those which are talented should go to schools. And what should you tell the kids in the schools? Tell the kids in the schools how the Rebbe loves each kid. And the Rebbe knows that people which are young are crazy. People which are young will make mistakes. People which are young are not perfect. People which are young will do foolish things. But the Rebbe trusts you anyways, and he's sure that you're going to end up using your koyach for the right thing. And that's the Rebbe's ava to each and every bocher. And the Rebbe is waiting for us to tell him that we want to join his elite army. We're ready to give up our nefesh habahamis, our covet, our haftorah, our taiva for his covet. In exchange, the Rebbe promises you a deal. And this deal, you may not use it today, you may not use it tomorrow. This deal will save your life. This deal will make your life. This deal will enable you to reach the highest of highest levels that we cannot reach by ourselves. So when it comes the night, getting back to the beginning, when it comes the night of Yud Shevat, when the Rebbe is looking for somebody to go into the wheelbarrow, which is across Niagara Falls, which al pi teva, how are we ever going to bring Mashiach? What does it mean? We're going to put ourselves in a matzav sakana. We're going to give up our tithes just to go. Lech tech achrei bamidbar beretz lo zerua. The Rebbe says, if you give me your haftorah, I will give you life. If you give me your nefesh habahamis, adam ki yaakov miken korban laHashem, I will give you chayim nitzchim. I will give you gula mitzvah v'ashleima. So tonight, when everyone makes a cheshbon nefesh, it's not what did I get tonight, it's what did I give tonight. Tonight I gave my haftorah, my nefesh habahamis, my taiva, I gave it to the Rebbe, and in exchange the Rebbe allowed me to become one of his angels and to have chayim nitzchim begula mitzvah shleima. So I like to be Messiah with the words that Rebbe is Messiah, the first Maimer. V'niske zenzich mit den Rebbe in the lemata, neshama beguf, v'hu yigaleinu.